Okay, let's start with this next class in which we have loops, like how loops behave. There are different types of loops in Java: for loop, while, do while. So how these loops they actually behave in Java, how you're going to write the code, what the syntax is, we'll discuss on that. Okay, let's open our Eclipse. This is the Eclipse. Let's create a new project, Java project. Let's call it loop module 2 plus 5 loops. Fine. Now we have loops. Let's create a new class. Okay. Dot test dot Java loops. We'll start with do while loop. Okay. So when do loops make sense? When you have some repeated task to be done, okay, something you want to access that repeatedly and you want to execute some sort of code repeatedly, then you will go for loops. Suppose I am having a main method in which I am writing sysout and I want to write a name, suppose a string A, right? I want to do this thing 10 times. Then I can go, if I don't have any loops, I'll do it this way. I'll write it 10 times, okay? But if I want to do this thing using a loop, what I can do is, suppose I'm having a structure like this, which says loop, and this is a loop which says 10 times. Okay, then it says that whatever code you are going to put inside these two brackets, it is going to be executed 10 times. This is generally how the loops they behave, they work, and this is what we call the condition. The condition says it should run 10 times, not more than that. Okay, now the condition can be a little difficult one, like it can be different one based on some other variable or some other conditions. So this thing says how many times we are going to loop, and we can write anything. Suppose I want to write sysout within that. So the sysout statement is going to be printed, is going to be executed 10 times, and it is going to print a 10 times. So let's see how we can write the same loop in Java. What is the syntax of writing a loop in Java? I want to execute sysout 10 times. Then what I am going to do? While I have a syntax, we call it do while loop, in which we will do something while the condition is here, while the condition is true. So I can say if the value I want to execute is 10 times, let's create int number of times equal to 10. So I want to execute it 10 times. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a condition over here, okay, in this statement, and until this condition is true, whatever statement we are going to put within that brackets, that is going to be executed. Let's make it even more clear. Okay, number of times. Okay, if number of times is greater than 0. So you see, this is a condition which is going to evaluate to a boolean value. So when this statement is executed, if it is true, then the loop doesn't end. It doesn't end. It reiterates. It tries to execute it again. Suppose I want to write something over here, end. So when I try to execute this loop, it will first come to this statement. It will first come to this statement. It will create a variable called number of times and will assign it to 10. Then it will go inside this. It sees this is a loop and this is the boundary of the loop. Then whatever statement we have inside these boundaries, it is going to be executed repeatedly. It says while this statement is true. So first it executes this line, okay, then checks if number of times is greater than 0. So what is the value of number of times now? It is now 10, which is greater than 0, and it evaluates to true. So this statement is true for the first time. So this is true and it will come back here again and try to execute this line. Then it will come back here and it will see it is 10 and still it is greater than 0. So we need to do something so that the value of 10 it decreases one by one. It will become 10, 9, then 8. Okay, so it should do something. We should write some code within these two blocks so that after some time this 10 it decreases and it vanishes, like it becomes 0 and the condition fails. This is how you are going to put a loop. So we can do something. We can write number of times equal to number of times minus 1. Okay, so what will happen? First it will come here, number of times is 10. Okay, then it is executing this line, it is going to print a, then it will decrement the value of number of times, that becomes 9. Okay, now 9 is greater than 0. Fine, 9 is greater than 0. It will again come here and it will execute this one, print another a, and come back and see it will execute the decrement the value of 9, it becomes 8. 8 is greater than 0 and it will do for all the values starting from 10 to 1. When the value number of times is 2, it will become 1. Then it will execute 1 is greater than 0. Then again it will come back here, execute the value, like print the value, it will print a into the console. Then it decreases the value of number of times from 1 to 0. 1 minus 1, that becomes 0. It will assign 0 to number of times. Then it checks the condition, it says 0 greater than 0, it is false. Then the loop does not repeat, it comes it goes to the next statement, then this statement is executed. Let's execute this code and see what is happening. So you can see in the console, first it like prints 10 times a, 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8 9 10. 10 times a it is printing, then it is not going back to the loop, it is coming out of the loop because the condition has failed. So it is printing sys out end. Okay, okay, fine. So this is how do while loop works. Okay, we have another way of looping, that is called while loop. So this condition that we are executing at the end of the loop body, basically this is called the loop body, these two brackets whatever we have within that. If the condition is after the loop body, then it is called do while condition. Else if we put this while on the top, it first checks if the condition is true, then it executes the body. So there are two ways of handling. Either we pre-check the condition, else we check the condition after. Okay, so let's do it the other way. Let's copy all the contents from here, got it. Okay, let's do one thing, let's create another method. Okay, we can have this for reference. Let's create a new method. Remove the spaces, fine. Okay, we can make a private class. Okay, static void do loop. Okay, and we can bring all the code within that do loop. Okay, we have brought everything within that. Okay, now we're going to call do loop. Right, now it is going to use it. So let's create another loop which we will call while loop. While loop, and we're going to create another method which is called while loop. Paste it over here. I'm going to change the name to while loop. Okay, you can see we're going to comment out this one. Let's see how the while loop is going to execute. Still the condition is same. We're going to execute the loop 10 times, right? So how we're going to do it? The condition is going to be executed before the loop body. Okay, so we can modify the same loop and we can bring the condition to the top. Let's cut this and let's paste it over here. So it says while number of times, that is 10, is greater than 0, do these things. Okay, So it will do it will continuously repeat the execution of these two statements, unless, like when it will become 0, the value of 10, it becomes 0 by decrementing 1 by 1, then this body is not going to be executed. Let's execute this line and see what is happening. Just remember the syntax. This is the way we write. There is a bracket, within that we write the condition, then this is the curly braces where within which we write our code. Okay, let's run while loop. I have written while loop, so this is going to be executed. Let's run this, run as Java application. Let's see what is happening. So it is basically printing the values 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 times, then it is saying 10. Okay, any doubt in these two statements? Like if you have anything to ask, like if you can think anything, like something is not making any sense, then you can ask me.
This is fine.
Fine, na? So just remember the condition and just try to figure out the condition, try to figure out the logic, so that the loop is executed as you want it. Okay.
Okay. The only difference between do while and while is do will be executed once before checking the condition.
No, do will be executed at least once, not once,
Yeah,
at
at
least
least.
once,
Okay.
right?
Yeah, at least once.
Yes,
And while we'll check the condition first and then only it will
execute.
execute.
Fine. That's the way how do while and while they work.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
Let's move to a new looping, new type of loop which we call for loop, and this for loop is quite advanced. It's used quite in most of the places, most of the scenarios you'll find. You'll get the solution in for loop. So let's see how Java for loops they actually behave. So let's create another class. Let's call it for loop example, for loop. Okay, yeah, let's keep it this way. Now we have a for loop. Let's maximize the class. So when for loop, they actually, how we are going to use a for loop, this syntax is a little different from the previous one. Let's create the main method in which is going to execute our code, from which our code is going to execution is going to begin. The same code we are going to see how we are going to write it. Okay, let's write your name over here. So this is the syntax of for loop. You have to write for, then two brackets, then the curly braces. Okay. Suppose I want to execute this statement some number of times, 10 times, then I am going to define how many times I am going to write. So within for loop, you will have three things to write. If you remember C and C++ code, it is very similar to that. So first thing is initialization. We are going to define a variable which is going to be used in the condition. Okay, suppose int number of times equal to 0. Okay, now the value of number of times is 0 initially. Now we are going to use that in the conditions. Now the second part is called condition. Number of times is less than 10. Okay, and the third thing that we do is number of times equal to number of times plus 1. So in Java or in any object oriented languages like C++, we have this plus plus operator which is called increment operator, post increment. Okay, so what is happening, this statement is going to be executed some number of times based on the condition that you have given over here. So what is the condition and how the condition execution flows, let's look into that. Okay, so what is happening when the statement reaches over here, it first tries, it says that it sees into the code, it looks into the code and sees that this is a for loop, and it assumes that first thing is an initialization thing. So this is going to create a variable number of times and initialize the value with 0. Now you have 0, then it checks the value condition, it checks if 0 is less than 10. If it is true, then it executes the body. Okay, you can have any number of statements within these two brackets. Okay, right, so these are the two statements which are going to be executed. So first, number of times is initialized with 0. 0 is less than 10, this condition evaluates to true. If it is true, then it will execute these two statements, then it will come back over here and it will try to increment the value, it will try to execute this statement. This is basically a statement which is used for incrementing or decrementing the value that we have. Okay, now what will happen, let's make it suppose we want to make it 3 times, we want to run it 3 times. So the value of number of times will be 0, 0 is less than 3, 1, 1 is less than 3, 2 is less than 3, but when it becomes 3, 3 less than 3, it becomes false and it exits the loop. Let's execute this statement and see what is the output. So basically it is printing 3 times, once, twice, and it is printing 3 times, and the syntax, it depends upon the syntax, like condition that you have given. The middle one is the condition, and the first one is the initialization thing, and last one is the incrementing or decrementing thing. So you want to execute some sort of code 3 times, then you have to write this condition in such a way that it is executed only 3 times. I can do it the other way also, the reverse way also. Let's do it the reverse way. Let's see how it is behaving. Paste. See, there is one more thing I must like remind you. You can see the same variable is used here and used here also, but it's not finding any problem because this variable is default variable, right? This is default. I'm not specifying it public, protected, private, nothing. So this default variable has a scope which is limited to these two boundaries. It's not available outside. If I'm trying to access number of times out of that scope, I'm going to get some error that this value is not defined. You can see this variable is not defined, so cannot be resolved to a variable. So this is something which does not belong to the method scope. It belongs to the for loop scope. So you can have this variable over here, and once it has exited this for loop, then this variable doesn't make any sense. You can create it again in this class, in this for loop block. So what we wanted to see now is we wanted to use the reverse order of execution. Let's make it 3. Number of time is 3. Then the number of time, it should be greater than, you can make it 0, it is greater than 0, and we can decrement the number of times value. So this is going to decrement the value 1 by 1. So let's run it, run as Java application. We can find the same sort of output. Okay, let's make it A and let's make it B. Now you'll be able to get the output properly. So you can see that these are executed 3 times, right?
It's 5 o'clock.
So any doubt in this syntax of for loop? No, na? Okay. Now this for loop that can be used to access some of the values from an array. So let's discuss about the arrays. How you are going to define an array and how you are going to access the values within that array. Let's create a new class and let's call it for loop version 2. Okay, let's see how we are going to create an array. I'm creating a main method, then I'm going to what I used to do is I used to have a string value, then I used to print the value printed in this string. I print the value, I have to access this value number of times using a for loop, right? Suppose this name is Arya and I am having a for loop which is saying int index equal to 0, index is less than number of times which I want to execute, then index incrementing, and I can write sysout and I can give the variable reference. This is what I used to do. Suppose this value, it is not a single value, it's a complex value. You want to store names like name of 3 or 5 person and you want to print those names. Then what you can do, you can create an array. Suppose I am going to create an array, string array of names. So names is the variable name equal to new string array. So this is how you are going to create a string array. And if you want to store only 5 values, you have to define that over here. Now this array is initialized with 5 string objects. So what I am going to do is I'm going to access each and every member of this names array using a for loop. So how for loop is going to help us over here? We have an enhanced version of for loop, okay, and we have this is the simple version of for loop in which we have to deal with the indexes, we have to deal with incrementing and decrementing. If you go to enhanced version of for loop, you don't need to do all these things. But anyways, let's start with this array first, and let's see how we can access the variable values based on their index value using this simple approach. So I'm going to use index. So this names is an array which is having 5 elements. I can define them using names and then a 0. This is the first index that I can define. Suppose Amit. Then I can define 5. These are 5 variables. Okay, 5 indexes of this array: 0, 1, 2, 3 and 4. And in any programming language, mostly in Java, you will see the indexes, they start with 0. So anything comes into picture, if it's an array, then you have to think that the first element is at index 0, the second element is at 1. So when you are creating an array of size x, suppose 5, then you are going to get the maximum index value, that is x minus 1 or n minus 1, that can be 5 minus 1. So we are having 4. If you want to access the next element, if you want to access the fifth element, it is going to give you an error at runtime. It says that this value is out of the bounds of this array. This array has just 5 elements. So let's put some more values into this, and so we have 5 name over here. Okay, I just want to access each and every name using this for loop. So this index is something which is going to be put over here, and if the index value is 0, and if I am passing names 0, then I am going to get the first value. If index is 1 and I am calling names index is 1, then it will act as names 1, then it will give me Amar. So what I am going to do is I am going to access the names bracket index. This is going to give me the value, particular value at that very index. So what I am going to do, I want a string variable name equals to, and I can't have this name, it becomes duplicate now, right? Now I'm creating a string variable, okay, a string reference, and I'm getting the value of that string at a particular index location. So this index is going to be 0 initially, then it is going to be compared with 5, 0 is less than 5, then it will come here and it will bring me names and 0, that is Amit, and I want to print that. I can do the same way, sysout, and I can print the name at that very index. Okay, when it becomes index is become like it is 4, 4 is less than 5, then it will get me the last name, names index 4, names 4 is pile, it will print pile. Okay, but if it becomes 5, then it like 5 is less than 5, this condition it fails, so it doesn't go into the loop, it will come out. So let's execute this code and see if it is running properly. Fine, run as Java application. So you can see this is how it has printed the outputs based on the index value. Okay, if you have any doubt in this approach, you can see the code again. I'll show it to you. You can tell me. Any doubts?
No, because
It is fine.
so we can,
Okay.
yeah, so we can access any of the array types.
Any of the types. I have just created a string array. You can create an int array. You can create an character array. Anything you can do, which is
So
valid
this
in
is
Java.
how,
Okay.
okay, so this, yeah, how do we do for a two-dimensional array?
How it is?
Solid can be used for two-dimensional array.
I can't hear you. Just type in. Just ping me the question. Perfect. We can use for loop for two dimensional arrays. When you have just a single dimension, you can see here we have just a single dimension, and for that dimension, what we are doing, we are creating a for loop, and we are creating the value for that dimension. That's called index. So if you have two dimensions, then you have to create two for loops, and that for loop needs to be nested. You will get to know that. I'll do some example on that two dimensional array. You will get to know that. Don't worry. Okay. So this is how the traditional for loop looks. It used to create some index variables, it used to put a condition on that variable, then it used to increment or decrement the variable so that we achieve what we want. If you want to use the enhanced version of for loop, then you must be having the values in a collection, okay, or in an array, or in any structure which is like possible for loop to execute. So let's create the enhanced version of for loop. We'll be needing these codes in the next class. We're going to create enhanced for loop. Okay, similarly we're going to have the same method. Let's copy that one, main method, copy, go back to this, and let's print it over here. Now we have the same method, same everything. What we have an array of strings, right? So when you have the array of strings or array of some type in Java, or you have some list of type of those Java, so if that value, this type, if this type it's of a particular type, if it's not of a different types, if you have similar data structure, then you can use this enhanced for loop. In the enhanced for loop, the structure changes, so you don't have to deal with this index and increment and decrement, and you know that all the data in that enhanced loop, and all the data in that array are of type string. Then you are going to create a variable of type string, and you can say it is name, and you can pass, you can write print, you can use a colon, and then you can write names. Okay, because this names is containing some strings, and every string can be like fetched from these names within this name or name object, name string object, and you don't have to deal with the indexes and conditions. Java used to do it for you. So if names has 5 strings, then this loop is going to be executed 5 times exactly, and Java is going to get one data from this names array at a time, and it will pass that data to name, and you can access, you can use that. So this becomes very easier for the developers to use. So let's run this code. You can see the syntax is little different, and you'll get the same output, the same result. Okay. So this is how the enhanced for loop works. We can do, let's do another example, not of type string. Let's create our own object, like let's create our own user defined object. So let's create a new object. Suppose I want to call it a person, uh, java dot business object. I can call it person. So once you have a person object, what are the different parameters, what are the different variables you can have in the person? One is name, okay, one you can have age, you can have gender, and you can have uh, gender and location like city where he is living. So let's define this variable name. It's a string variable, so I'm going to create a private value, private variable string, private string name, and you can initialize with null, or you can leave it blank, because the string object, every object in Java by default, they don't point to anything, they can be null, they are set to be null. Then age is something which is an integer value. You can create a private int and age. Okay, for integer the default value is 0, so by default the age will be 0. Then you have gender, it's either m or f. So for m you have male, for f you have female, so you can make it a character, private char gender, so you can leave it blank. So if you want, by default the person has to be male or female, you can have some value, but remember, for characters you need to specify them, you need to define them within single quotes. Then you have string, ct is a string value, so you can have string, but you just remember to make it private. So you have created 4 different variables within this person object, but the problem is all these variables, they are private, so you must be having some getters and setters to access them. Let's create the getter setters. And to create the getter setter, you can right click within the editor, you can go to source, and you can create generate getters and setters. Then you can select everything. To select all, you can select all, then you can click on OK. Now you have seen you can see all the getters and setters are created for that class. If you want to display that class into screen, into the console, you can override, you can extend one method of object class which is called toString method. So you can go to source, and you can generate toString. This is one method which is used to print all the variable values of that object of a class. Okay, so this is extended from object class. Now I have created 4 variables, and I have created a person class. Let's create object of that person class. How we are going to create object of that person class? Suppose I want to have a list of persons, okay, or an array of persons. How I am going to create? Suppose first I am going to create one person, then you have to import it. Control space, it will show you import this statement com.test.java.view. You can double click on that. Person is imported. You can see this person is imported. Then you can create person1 equals to new person. You can see this is the constructor, and we are not passing any variables, neither we have defined this constructor in the class. So this is called a default constructor in Java. So you have created one person object, but you have not set anything to that person. Let's set the values. You can do that way of setting each and every value, or we can create another constructor in this class which is going to get all the values from the from the client who is going to create this object. So we can use this source, generate constructors using fields. These are the 4 fields. You can select all the fields, then you can see all the fields are selected now. Then you can create the constructor. Right now the constructor is created. Whoever wants to call this method, whoever wants to create the person object, he is going to call to this person object, but he is he has to provide the name, age, gender and city in the same order that we accept. So let's call this new person object, and let's pass. The first thing is the name. First thing, name, suppose Arya. Suppose let's keep it short, A. Then second thing we have is name, age, gender and city. Is one, gender, suppose I'm passing A, and city, that is a string. So try to look how I'm creating the variables. If it is an integer, we don't need any quotes. If it is a string, we created double quotes, right? If it is character, single quote. Then the city that I'm passing, suppose M, suppose C. Okay, now I have created one person. Let's give some values. Male, and you can say it's Mumbai. So you can create different person objects. I have created 5 person objects, but 2 different variables, they cannot have the same name. For that you have to make them, you have to give them different name, person 2, 3, 4 and 5. If you want to make it even more clear, you can name the person as the person name. Suppose now I'm going to give it because suppose this is what I'm going to give as Subrat. This is something to is Amit. So I have created 5 persons, but I have not set different values for them. Let's give the values, and let's make the values different: 26, 27, 28, 29. So that, let's make it Amit. Now okay, now this is Pune. This is BBSR. This is going to be BKL. This is going to be SBER. Okay. let's do one thing, let's change something, let's make okay. Now I have four five different person objects, right? There is some error. What can be the error? Person. Okay, see, in this class I have created this person constructor, but I have not yet saved it. So in the background, the class file that is generated by Eclipse, that is not yet updated with this new person constructor. For that reason we are getting this error. This is undefined, this constructor is undefined. So let's save this first. Now I've saved it. You can see the error has gone. Now we have created five objects. Now what we are going to do is we are going to create a person array. Person array. This is how we are going to create the array. Then I can say persons, okay, equals to new person array, and I know that this person array is going to contain only five elements. So I am creating the person array of size 5. So how I am going to assign the different persons into this? I can do this way, persons and 0, then you can write that area. So this is how you are going to assign the persons to different indexes that you have. One is 4, 3, 2 and 1. Always remember the indexes start with 0, and these are the different person objects that you can specify. Then you have Subrat, you have Totem, and last you have Ahmed. So we have assigned all the persons into this person array. You can do this way or you can do it this way also. Okay, so this automatically creates a person of that much size, that much element that we are going to put into this array. It is going to create a person of that size. Now we have a person of size 1, 2, 3, 4 and 5. So this person array is going to be of size 5, and we have that we have all the person objects in this array. Now what we are going to do, we are going to use an enhanced for loop. So how the enhanced for loop is going to help us here? As we have this persons array of type person, we know that every element in this array is of type person. So we are going to create an object of person over here, person, and I can call it person. And then I know the array which is containing all the person, this is called persons. I can write it over here. So every time whenever this for loop is executed, it brings one persons from this array and assigns to this person object, and then we can use that person object over here. We can either print that into console or we can write person dot get ct, whatever field you want you can write that. See, we are not accessing the city directly, we are indirectly accessing that using this public method, getter method of that city. So let's execute it and let's see how the output is done as Java. We'll just get the city names. We can again we can extend it to somehow like this, person name and the city, person dot get name. Okay, now I have got the name, plus I want to show, like I want to print this colon, and then I can see this. So you can check how I have appended the strings and how the output has come. Okay, you can see the screens, right? And see how this is one string object, because when it is executed, when this much line is executed, this much of code is executed, it returns a string. If you put your mouse over get name, you'll see this string is returned, or you can control and click on get name. Okay, see this return type of this method is string, and it is returning the name of the person object. So once I have the name object, name string object, then I want to append another string. Now this is one more string which is appended. So what I have here, if it is AMIT, this is the string name which we have returned, then I'm appending this string. Okay, this is the string which is going to be appended. You can paste it over here. Then person dot get ct, the ct that it is retrieving from the db, from the person object, that is something sbpr. So you will get this string if this much is executed, you're going to get such a string. And sys out, what it does, system.out.println, it prints this thing into the console. So let's execute this and let's see how the output we are getting. This is going to be executed for every element that we have within this person's object. We have Arya, we have Vikas, so all these elements, they're going to be accessed one after other. So let's run this code, run as Java application, right? You're getting it.
Yeah.
Yes, any doubt?
So, what was the use of that string method?
What is the use of this toString method? Perfect.
Yeah.
When you want to get the string value of an object, if you want to print the object into console, then the string, you know what, in Java we have one the super class of all the classes in Java, that is called object class. Okay, object class has a method which is called toString. So any class you are creating in Java, that is going to extend the object class, because by default all the classes, they extend the object class in Java. So when I'm creating an object, for example, I'm creating I'm creating person. So this person object is getting all the behaviors of string class. Let's open this string class for you. String dot class. Okay, I just need to write string java.lang.string. This is a static and final class. So you can see this is the string class is defined in java.lang package. You can open it. You can see there are a lot many like you can open all the methods by using control O. Now you can see there are different methods available over here. So this is the class which you are using when we want to print a string. When we want to print a string into the console, then this strings toString method is called, and this toString method, it is derived from object class. You can open object class in Java, java.lang.object. You can see there are 4 5 7 or 8 methods, and some one of that is toString method. So this toString method is called to print the value of that object. If that object doesn't have any value associated, what it does is it just prints the class name at the rate the hash code of that object. Hash code is the memory representation, or it's just the location where that object is kept in the memory as per Java virtual machine. So if you don't write this toString method in person class, and if you want to print that person class somewhere, suppose I want to print it over here, I don't want to write it this way, I want to sys out just the person object, then I'm expecting this person object to print everything. Automatically Java calls person.toString and that value is printed. So when Java calls person.toString, and if you don't have any toString defined over here, it goes to the object class, and that object class toString is called. So it writes get class dot get name. So this is going to give you person, then it is going to tell you at the rate person at the rate and some memory location, which is like we don't know what this memory location is. But so to make it like clear, we have overridden the toString method. Let's do one thing, let's comment this to this statement, and let's see how it is going to like. Okay, in Java multi-line comment is it starts with slash star and ends with the star slash. Okay, you can see this is a multi-line comment. Now we don't have toString method in person object, and we want to print that person object over here, right? We want to print the person object. Let's run this class main method, and you can see the output is something like this is a person, this is the person object, right? Entire person object, it says the fully qualified name of the person object. Then at the rate, this is the memory location where the first area element is locating in the memory. So if we do it this way, if we override the toString method, then this toString method of this person class is called, and this method, it returns the actual value within that object. So this is what we have created, we have written in our class. So let's run now and let's see what is the difference between the last one that we had. See, you can see the output over here. Let me open it for you. This is the output which we had earlier. Now we have just created the toString method, overridden it. Now let's run this application. You can see the proper output is coming. You can see the person object is here, the name, the age, and everything is written over here. Okay, this is how the toString method that actually works. Any doubt in this?
So, string method is basically when we are defining our own objects or we
Right.
define
Right, right. If you want to display that object into screen, if you want to display the contents, if you want to just print the contents of that object somewhere, you want to write that into a file, you want to do something with that value, then you need to override the toString method. Okay.
it. So I have one question that you can take up to ask. So how overriding is different from overloading?
Okay, overriding is different from overloading. Let me write that question for you, because this is not the right time. Once we like discuss about inheritance, then you'll get to know how overloading and overriding they actually. You already know what overloading is, right?
Yeah, overloading is yeah, the same method name. We can change the parameter value or parameter number and
Okay.
we can use it manually to the same method name.
Right, right. That's what overloading is. Then overriding is a concept which comes when we have super classes, when we have interfaces, okay, when we have inheritance into place. The next class is all about inheritance, right? So in that class we'll clear this doubt also, don't worry. So from for loop perspective, this is the enhanced for loop. This is clear to you. The for loop simple version that we had earlier in this like using the indexes, you can see, and we're using an array, and we're getting the values of that array using the index that is dynamically generated in the for loop. Okay.
Hmm.
So you're getting the concepts, right?
Yeah.
Now we have completed these conditions and loops. We have seen how class, object, variable, method and packages are created. So almost everything is complete. We just need to jump to the next part, that is interface and inheritance. And we need to see how collections and exceptions are useful in Selenium, how they're like created in Java. So this source code I will share with you, and if you have any more doubt, you can just look into them and tell me right now, else we can have another session which will be dealing with like discussions and questions answers.